It's so interesting because I see where the fear of humanity to step off from their
Yes.
abuser. They feel like, but what if I can't because, fill
Yeah.
in the blank of all the millions of
If I
excuses.
separate from the herd, something will get me.
Even though I see us going off the cliff.
Yeah,
It's
the herd is
madness, right?
running off the cliff, but if I separate, maybe something will get me. It's like,
Maybe you will survive. Maybe you will live. And that's the thing. They have tricked us and programmed and conditioned us so deeply
yes.
that the simple solutions are complete. We're completely blind to them.
Too many people are confusing manifesting versus daydreaming. And it's when you daydream, you sit there and you're like, I want to be better, or I want to live healthier, I want to go to the gym. And then you go right back to doing the same stuff that is not making you healthy, which is not getting your body correct or not making you a better person. And you sit there and then you go back to daydreaming. Hey, I want to do this. I want to be great. I want to do this. And then you continue to watch 5 hours of Netflix, and you continue to scroll on social media for 10 hours. That is not manifesting. Just because you say, I want this and I want to do this, that doesn't mean that you're manifesting into your life. Manifesting is not only thinking about the future and preparing yourself to be that person you want to be in the future, it's also going, hey, I'm going to have a plan of action behind this. I know that if I keep doing the right things, if I keep working out, if I keep eating the right stuff, I'm going to have the body or the physique that I want. Or if I want to be a better person, if I am reading the self-help books, if I'm actively trying to live a better lifestyle and change my ways, then I'm manifesting and I'm thinking about the future and the person that I'm going to become, but I also have the actions behind it to show for it.
Someone ultimately does get a Neuralink installed, what will take place? What exactly is it?
Basically implanted in your skull. Take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. In principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain. So it could be something that helps cure eyesight, like returns your eyesight, even if you've lost your optic nerve.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, could restore limb functionality. So if you've got somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality, like they can walk around,
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
Maybe slightly better.
Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun, and we are here bringing you the truth today about what we understand concerning the new timeline. We know there's a lot of discussion about that, but before we get into this, Tarvars, will you bring us into the truth?
Certainly, and we encourage those who are joining to join us and be called for the truth. Should we call forth the frequency of truth to come forward? Should we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth in all that we say, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? So we're talking about the truth of the timeline.
Yes, there's a lot of discussion on the internet about the timeline. Have you heard about it? Heard people talking about it?
Camera lady said something about it. And what
Yeah.
she's seeing, a lot of people, yes, I'm seeing it here and there.
It's very topical. This is a reality. This is something that has been prophesized. This is something that we're in the middle of. And it's also in harmony with all universal law and principles of free will. So there will be, as we see, there is a split in humanity. Part of humanity wants to go in one direction and another part wants to go in another, and the demarcation becomes clear all the time. That there are those who would like to be part of technology. They'd like to have technology in their bodies, in their physical parts. They might even want to replace parts of their bodies with technology. And there are those who would prefer to work with creation and what is natural and what exists on the planet. And there is the split. So what do you think of that?
I think it's evident and it's very palpable. People feel something in the air. They recognize there is a shift occurring. We see it in every aspect of society.
Yes.
We see it from even politics, even though we know that's political theater.
Yes.
But we can see shifts and rifts taking place even within the ideologies that
Yes.
happen. We see it within our choices of food,
Yes.
and the idea of no longer wanting to support corporations. We see it in classism. It's showing up in almost every area of life where, again, a splitting is occurring. And so I think people have questions like, for example, some of the people who I've been around have had questions regarding people in their life who are not on the timeline. But before we even speak about that, how does a person know that they're on a timeline? And when I say timeline, I mean that there is a timeline that is moving towards in support of life, and one that is more like the one you mentioned, where people are choosing transhumanism, more anti-life, and artificial way that's disconnected from the divine source.
I'm glad you asked that. I think this is so important for everyone to have clarity on. What we are seeing is what has been in existence for millennia. We see separation. We see wars in Ukraine. We see war in Israel. We see rumors of wars in other places. We see boats off our borders. We see threats of war. This is all about people who cannot come together in separation. So it makes perfect sense that in the world that we live in, that we're familiar with, that separation must take place because it has been called for. So there are those of us who don't want separation. There are those of us who want to live in harmony with nature and in harmony with proper evolution, which includes technology, but not in the way it's being delivered to us now where it's damaging to us. So we see some states are saying, no more fake meat. We're not allowing fake meat. Some states are saying we're not allowing for people to, we're going to protect our children in an extreme way. We're going to make sure that people who attempt to damage our children are punished severely. So we see certain breakaway situations. So this is how the universe works. This is universal law. Those who exert their energy to move away from the way in which things are going. So if the way in which things are going is they're culling millions of birds, there's propaganda coming forth that there's going to be other illnesses that are going to be coming soon, that's the general way that the authorities and the officials of this planet are moving. And then there are those who are breaking away saying, no, I don't want fake meat. No, don't kill the chickens. No, I don't want this. No, don't. We need to protect our children. So this is no more than that. The timeline split is that. It is that manifested. And I think the thing to know about that is that this is law. You get what you want. That every human is designed in such a way that they broadcast over and over again the things that they are interested in. So if you're interested in corporations and money and jobs and you identify that way, you broadcast that. If you're interested in nature and growing things and food, healthy education, natural healing, you broadcast that. So what is really happening is that's playing out in front of us. So the question you had was,
how does one know that they're on this timeline or that timeline? And the reason being is that I have seen where there are people who have awareness of wanting a different future, but their actions aren't necessarily fully in pursuit of that.
Yes.
There's still some level of connectivity to the old world.
Yes.
So I see that there needs to be some level of reconciliation
I agree.
of that.
The way I see it is a little bit different in that I see there's a difference between manifestation and daydreaming. Like when you're daydreaming, you can sit out the window and wish that the thing you want would come down the road. Like, I wish they would do better. I wish the government would treat me better. I wish I had money so I could go on a vacation. I wish that I was Superman. I wish that I was famous. I wish I was a basketball player. That's daydreaming. Then there are actionable steps that can be taken that take you to the place you want to be. You are hungry, you go to the store, you get the food, you cook the food, you eat the food. Those are actionable steps that are taken. So in my practice of talking to people, I do sometimes meet people who have spent their lives looking out the window, down the road, hoping something would come that will relieve them of their suffering. And that's where I see this.
So you're saying that essentially being on the timeline is a form of manifestation, manifesting your reality into that trajectory. Is that accurate?
I'm saying that yes and no. I'm saying
Because
that
again, within the context in the example of a daydream versus a manifestation is the
within
perspective.
that context, I'm saying if you're taking actionable steps to move into an aspect that supports life where you represent and are life, or you're trying to get to that, or you're taking actionable steps to support that. You're not killing everything. You're not part of the march towards anti-life, part of the march towards those things that are against life. If you're doing the actionable steps, I think that you will, by law in this universe, move into a space where that can be your reality. By law, if you do nothing but wish and hope that it happens, I think then that doesn't necessarily position you to experience the fullness of being on the timeline that represents life that you have not yet adhered to.
Have your answer. So again, it does sound like manifestation, but a more involved form, not like the secret. I'm gonna daydream about the thing and then it shows up. Oh, here I am on the timeline. It's from my understanding of manifestation, there's an active engagement with the thing. You put it out there, but you are taking actions that inform the universe to configure your reality and start magnetizing circumstances and situations, opportunities, where you can again continue to respond in like manner. And that's all like actionable, it's in you're informing versus just like, yeah, they really need to do something. We need a different world out here. It would be nice, man. These corporations doing us wrong. We can't eat, drink, anything. Can't even breathe.
I think this, it's not really a nuance. I think bringing up the secret and bringing up this idea is very good because thought is the most powerful thing in the universe, and thought should lead to action.
Should.
Yes.
But
So
does it always?
And when it reaches the pitch that brings in action, it does. So, if you think about something 2% of the time, maybe it won't produce an action. You think about something 50% of the time, there should be action behind it. So this is where I think this is the core of what you're really asking. What you're really asking is, how does a person know? How can they know? They will know by the amount of energy that they are producing through their thought that produces action. Just like we know the same thing if you want to do homework and you don't pick up the pencil or you don't go on the computer, the homework doesn't get done, but you could dream about how you did it and see how that works out.
So question, because just for the people listening, here at Of the Sun, we have and teach calibration methods. So for example, we can calculate and calibrate whether or not a person is on the new timeline. not everyone calibrates in this way, but there are other forms of calibration. However, before we even get there, like what you were saying about manifestation and the actionable steps, picking up the pencil, doing the homework, doing the thing that's necessary to attract
the outcome that you're looking for.
Okay, so by a person moving in the direction of life, shouldn't there be some type of evidence, right, that shows up as an identifier or a marker or something where like they can look at, oh, I see I'm moving towards life, I'm on the timeline, versus, because again, I'm speaking to the people who I've seen online where they know that there's a timeline split happening, but then they also feel victim to what's happening. You know, we still have this it's not completely split. There's still an overlay,
and there's still time
and various levels of our experience to it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And there's an overlay, there's time, there's also this idea of delusion. But what I'd like to bring in is that we have been cultivated in fear so deeply that one of the ways we can recognize is that we're all intimidated by what happens if we talk about something or say words that we're not supposed to say on the internet, or we're not doing the approved version. Everyone's aware of this, and you can only talk about it so much before you're silenced. So it's this idea of that kind of fear creates passivity, and the passivity makes you remain where you are. The fear that what we have seen in the past could happen to us. Maybe they deplatform us. Maybe we'd lose our jobs. Maybe somebody would take down our channel or something like that. All of that is what's in the pot for Are You on the Timeline? Like, is it worth it to you no matter what? Then you think, well, if nobody can hear me, but you are still a voice resonating the truth in a world. So the idea of the fear that goes along with being outside of the power structure that makes things happen in our historical past has been that it's been catastrophic for people to be outside of that. However, we do see examples of people who are speaking out. And then we also are seeing the world is changing. So part of the measurement is how much fear makes us immobile. Are we in so much fear that it's like, oh, don't say that? That's one of the measurements as to whether you're going to be able to be on the timeline. Do you have enough courage to be the person who's planting food when the people come by and say, you can't plant food? Are you going to figure out something else? Are you going to starve because they said you can't do it? Is your loyalty to the law, or is your loyalty to your existence? This is part of the measurement. This is part of how you know. Are you so passive that you just have the thought that this ain't good, this is not right, I don't want to be a part of this, but, you know, it's too inconvenient for me to have to go somewhere else to get my food. I have to go where the exploding watermelons are because I'm too passive to protect my life. And what's at stake is each individual's life. Are you not aggressive enough to protect you and your children from whatever the issue is? That's a way to gauge whether you're on the timeline or not. If you're willing to step out, you're probably going to have a place to step out too. If you're unwilling to step out, but you recognize what's wrong, good for you. But will that be enough?
Vibration. We are a universal remedy of support, an ally infused with positive frequencies and biophotonic light particles, intended to return one to the greater whole of one's organic nature. Within our layered structure exists an opportunity for metamorphosis, prompting divine healing energies of light to awaken your original composition, that which has been irritated by inorganic substances through mental, emotional, and physical material. We are navigators, those who operate by way of your conscious thought and directive, exponentially moving to the physical areas of stuck emotion within the body that are in need of restoration. When engaged with us, we identify and mirror the called upon frequencies of lower vibratory notion for it to see itself in transmutation, while awakening that which is dormant to shift into the rectification of optimum balance and functionality.
I understand from all that I have learned is that we must be responsible for ourselves. And that if we're not willing to save ourselves, no one else will. That's how I see it. I'm not sure that that speaks to what you were saying.
Most certainly. I think this gives a real grounded
Yes.
understanding that's tangible for people in their everyday reality.
Yes.
I distill it down to what we typically talk about.
Right.
Life and
Yes.
anti-life, the influence, the examples that you gave of, am I willing to stand up to support my children?
Yes.
When the law tells me, man-made law tells me you can't grow food, will I do it regardless? Because I'm in support of life. I'm not going to eat what you're going to force me to eat.
Right.
You know, so all of these things add to the pot. Ideally, you're already growing food and doing stuff now, or, you know, at least shopping, like, for example, local with growers
Right.
who care.
Right.
You know, who are not spraying their food with pesticides, right? I think all of these things add to the pot of informing the field,
Yes.
the universe. Hey, I'm in support of life. This is where I'm going. You know, and I can see even in my own life, to give an example, the more I make choices like that,
Yes.
the more I connect with other people who
Yes.
see the truth. Whether it's in coffee shops or at farmers markets or blueberry patches.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more and more people coming into my reality who resonate with that truth.
Absolutely.
You know? And not just people to converse with, but, oh, here's new opportunities for me to buy food that has been untampered with. And oh, here's a person who may be able to learn, teach me how to fix something or a skill set that we may need.
This is your new community. This is the new world. It's not convenient. You can't, there's no drive-ups. It's not convenient like that. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where all the divisions are made. Like, if you're not in harmony with the convenience and the comfort that has gotten us in the condition that we are currently in, you may have to choose something that's less convenient, that's less comfortable. Cooking your food from scratch would be a very good idea.
I have a thought.
Yes.
Ideological subversion is so real.
Yes.
I'm thinking about our perception of the term conveniency and what we think convenience is.
Yeah.
We think eating toxic food that kill us is convenient.
Yes.
You see, like, what has happened?
Yes.
It's not doing anything for us. In that cooking your food, growing your food is not convenient. Actually, and when you were saying this, I was thinking to myself, man, growing my food and sourcing food from local farmers has been more convenient from this perspective.
Not only more convenient, but lets you know the glory of creation. To pick a tomato off your own plant and feed it to your family, and you do that, is a glory.
Yes, I do.
I mean, like heaven.
About that life.
Heaven must be reaching up and getting the nourishment that you need that was given to you through creation as part of your birthright, and eating it. That's different than styrofoam fries and a burger with monosodium glutamate. That's different. So it's like my guidance recently shared. They said, you know, life is like a plate of food. If your plate of food is full with food that has been covered with a covering that makes you not know that it's rotten, until you've had it at home for 2 days, or on your plate you have food that has been processed where it has no nutritional value and cannot support your brain development or your thought patterns, only makes your will weaker, you don't have any food. But that's what's available to us at a convenience level, which extends to the supermarket. We may have to go out of our way to plant the seeds or buy the plants or go to someone who has done that to secure our choice. That's the actionable steps that allow us freedom. But the bigger idea is that we are eternal beings. We don't die. We are choosing our next lifetime. So we don't need to be afraid that somebody's going to do us or end us because we don't agree with them, because you're not going to be gone. And you have earned your next space. So every action towards life will guarantee more life. Whether you live in this dimension or in another dimension, or if you, as you are an eternal being, you live forever. But each time you upgrade your experience by upgrading your desire to have a better experience. The richness of eating your own food that you put into the ground yourself, that you cultivated, that you took care of, that you watered every day. Every time you had a drink, it had a drink. And then you get to eat that, and it wants to be eaten by you, and it wants to taste good for you. That's a glory. And I know I'm singing to the choir here because you're a harvest man and you're harvesting food all the time. And it's just a glory that we think only poor, ignorant people do that. We think only the suffering people have to cook their own food. Everybody else can get theirs in a box or deliver it to their house.
This is, again, the ideological subversion.
Yes.
Our way of life has been hijacked
Yes.
over time and placed into the responsibility and care. I can't even say care, but within the hands of
we have done it. We have given it over our lives.
And it goes back to what you were saying. Nobody else is coming to save us. Every soul has to make the choice on every level, even as a people. But this is where I can see the power of all the individuals choosing differently. No, I don't want that. It's so interesting because I see where the fear of humanity to step off from their abuser. They feel like, but what if I can't because, fill in the blank of all the millions of excuses.
If I separate from the herd, something will get me.
Even though I see us going off the cliff.
Yeah, the herd is running off the cliff, but if I separate, maybe something will get me. It's like,
maybe you will survive. Maybe you will live. And that's the thing. They have tricked us and programmed and conditioned us so deeply that the simple solutions we're completely blind to them. Like even the idea of, I was speaking to my grandmother, she was looking for a green called callaloo, and it's like collard greens, but it's from Jamaica. And she's like, I can't find it anywhere. I was like, Grandma, you're not going to find this at Publix and let me omit their names, but at the major box stores. I said, you thought about the farmer's market? She goes, oh my gosh, I never even thought of that. It's just completely, and part of it is the magic from the continual engagement. There was a thought that came up, and this was based off of something you were saying earlier. And I think as I say it, the idea will fully come forth. They got us in terms of our passivity.
Yes.
I'm going to use the company, the Chipotle company. They continue to raise prices. Mm-hmm. Not that I eat Chipotle or I condone it anymore. However, they continue to raise prices. And the people are complaining, but they still go. And it's like, why don't you just step off? Why don't you go support a smaller business where the food may be even better?
Right.
It's likely, right? So instead of being in this toxic relationship, and so it's this weird, not only convenience, but it's almost like, because we've engaged with them, every other solution or potentiality has been kind of like blurred or blinded out of our perception.
It's
So-
very true. There's so much to what you said. One, the idea of the ritual magic that's involved with going to the grocery store, touching the basket, going through the store, going through the checkout as a way of life. Driving up to a window, the ritual magic, the drive up to a window with the children in the back seat and getting everyone, whatever you're getting them that's poison. This ritual that we do all the time and we further inculcated into our experience has become the magic that's killing us. So that there is that aspect of it.
It's like we literally got spells over us from
Yes.
different corporations.
And
that
from
compel-
and just imagine next time you go into a grocery store, before you touch that buggy, see how you feel and then see how you feel after you touch it. Like all of this is a ritual that millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people are doing every day. And yes, it is a real thing in the same way that what we think of as order, you go into the emergency room and there's a ritual. There's a person in a white coat, and then there's a desk, and then there's a sign-in, and then all of this is ritual. And we're further handicapped, not only is our world full of ritual, all the stores are the same in every city. It's all the same stores, same thing, same operation. This is all hypnotizing and ritual magic. But then there's this idea also that we are acclimated towards suffering. So we stand in line and wait for the Black Friday sale. We stand in line and wait for the new phone to come out. This is all teaching us who we are. You are the person who has to wait until I'm ready to give it to you. This is the only way this can happen. There's no other way for you to get on an airplane but to stand in line for 45 minutes and faint if needed, because everything must have a degree of suffering, because there are those who gain from human suffering. And we have acclimated ourselves to it, which is one of the reasons that we give you the greetings of Inlakesh, which is I am you, and Veritas, which is true, because we want you to know that in the Inlakesh, I am you, we can release the suffering that we all are experiencing in truth. The truth is we're greater than this. The truth is we've always been greater than this, and it is our language and the way in which we engage in ritual that steals from us and silences our creativity and our godhood. This is what takes from us.
Yes.
You know, we are only able to think in words, and we don't use enough words to make our universe big enough for us to think our way out of it. So if you just try to think without words, you'll realize that you're locked in to thinking only in the words you have. So that then means that we're a society that, especially if we're making up words or are using words inappropriately, then we're a sloppy equation in the way we think. And that level of thinking has locked us into this paradigm of going to a restaurant that we're not happy with and then continuing to go and complain while we're there. That is not the only alternative.
But, what's funny about this is that is holographically showing up in many of our other relationships. Our romantic relationships, our family relationships, our relationship with government and politics, work, where you're suffering in something and you continue to suffer. And so you were saying this thing about suffering. I was saying how one way to not only combat, but to secure your space on the new timeline is to choose joy, to choose happiness, to choose to essentially be free of the suffering. Wherever you could pop yourself into that's above suffering, you might want to go there. And I can see how it does so many things. I see how, one, the beings who are feeding off of the suffering, because like you gave such beautiful examples of the airport. Couldn't there be a better way? Do you ever think about how, man, we got iPhones, we got this, we got that. Why are the systems so arduous? TSA, the DMV, all these different
Traffic.
services that are
Traffic
government
doesn't-
systems.
Traffic. Everything is designed for suffering, and then people attach themselves to suffering and feel connected to suffering
Oh, wow.
and want to suffer. So the solution is what you said. The solution is raise yourself up to your highest possible vibration. This is the solution we recommend. Call for the highest possible vibration 3 times, because wherever you are, you have just asked for a higher experience from wherever you are. This is a solution. This is a way that a person can identify that if I get up high enough, I can catapult myself into an actionable step. Once you start taking an actionable step, it's really just a matter of doing enough of them, like in anything else, in any other way. If you want to be a bodybuilder, if you want to be a gymnast, whatever, you have to take the actionable steps. The laws of the universe apply. The same laws that apply to everything else. If you want to eat, you're going to have to pick up the fork or put the food in your mouth and chew it. The actionable steps to life. We know how that works, but we have been discouraged from doing them. Like, no, it'd just be better just to lay around here. I'll just wait till somebody comes home with food. I'm sure they can deliver something. Uber Eats. They can take care of me.
Well, I have some thoughts on this, and I'll do what I can to keep it reeled in, because when I think about it, what comes to mind is I'm going to leave all the responsibility up to someone else. I don't want it, which we've been cultivated in that way, right? Literally. And even those who recognize that's not appropriate and are working on it, there's still an impulse to neglect responsibility. And we've been talking a lot about godhood and like, what is this idea of being divine, and what are we really doing here? Like, what's really going on? And maybe on our next podcast we could talk a little bit more deeper about that, because
I'm game whenever you
know,
are.
I'm like, gods aren't sitting around waiting for delivery and somebody to come home. They create and they're making it. Just a little teaser for you all. Where we going with things?
Well, let's pull a card for our podcast today. So these are the Call for Truth cards, and Tarvars will take them and shuffle them, and he will pull a card, but you're to share with us your question and see what the cards have to say, if you would.
I'm asking the cards to share with us the truth that we need to understand that will help us with adhering to the timeline shift. The theme is evolution, heart chakra. There is always more of you to work with. There is always more to see, more ways to grow, and more to do. Evolution is continuous. I'd like to speak on this briefly.
Yes.
We had our morning phone call with our group, and I mentioned how I can't tell you how many clients and people I've come across, even on the internet, saying, when do we stop? Do we ever get to the point, you know, of where we're good and we're done with evolving? Do we just stop working on ourselves? You know, this toiling away. And when we really like understanding the mechanics of reality, everything's evolving, everything's growing. Like when you're stagnant, you're depressed, you're dissatisfied because you're not living in the natural rhythm of evolution and renewal and expansion. You just staying the same. And when we can get with, you know, there's more from the perspective of, ooh, there's more of me to see. I can be more. It flips the frequency of, I gotta evolve again. I gotta learn. I gotta, here's another lesson. No, it can be an elevated thing. And then I also see that we get stronger. We get where it's just kind of, it's just an isness. You know? So what are your thoughts on this?
It's, I think what humanity thinks is not aligned really with the truth. It is in our language. It's in our, the truth is in the language. You can be a star, but we don't believe that to be so. We think that you have to be a movie star, but you could evolve to be the light that guides the way for others. literally and figuratively. You could be the sun that gives direction, the divine masculine that gives direction to all life, while the divine feminine nourishes it. You could be in honor, respect, and gratitude. If you could be that, then you could open doors to be more, but we don't believe it. We don't believe that. We think that that's ridiculous. How could I ever be a star? That's evolution. Evolution. Evolution can get us there. We thank you for joining us, and we'd like to leave you today with the greetings of In Lakesh, which is oneness and truth, with honor, respect, and gratitude to you and to all. Thank you.